I want to pull up this tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She says, we need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. Everyone I talk to says this. From the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies, we are done. John Stewart says, but we get to keep the name, right? And then Nicole Pearlroth says, cool, California can keep the tech, AG, livestock. Georgia can keep their infant mortality, incarceration rates, and the country's lowest wages. I find it interesting. Yeah, you can see it. It's down here. Michael Malice.
I love this topic, by the way.
He posted the case for American secession from Observer, why it's time to disunite the United States. Marianne Williamson, did she just call for a civil war? Does she know what happened the last time a few states said they wanted to leave? It's a funny thing for Marianne to say because, like, yes, the Confederates did say, hey, we're going to leave. And then the Union was like, no, you're not. And then sent troops down. So the funny thing is there are many people on the left. Sarah Silverman, I think she said this a while ago, didn't she? Said something about a national divorce.
I know she has talked about it in the past.
I don't know about Sarah Silverman specifically, but it's definitely something that comes up.
So I want to Google it.
University of Virginia they have a Center for Politics. They did this poll last October, and they found that like 50% of Trump supporters are in favor of a national divorce or secession, and 41% of Biden supporters are also like, nah, that sounds good. We'll split up. I mean, it's majority opinion that both political parties seem to hold, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, Sarah Silverman did say maybe we should break up and to divide into like 2 or 3 countries. So this is a really, really great example of why we probably are headed towards a national divorce. The fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene, 2 years, okay, actually, I think to be fair, was it September? So a year and a half after Sarah Silverman calls for this, Marjorie Taylor Greene calls for it, and now liberals are angry. How dare you say something that Sarah Silverman said a year and a half ago?
It's actually bipartisan, right?
It's bipartisan. And not only that, Marjorie's late to the party.
To me, we absolutely need a national divorce, which is why it'll never happen. All right, because first of all, as we just discussed with the James O'Keefe story, we can't have nice things in the era in which we live. But I think what we're up against won't let us go. You're dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses that have tanks, all right? The same thing that has the Jehovah's. You ever have the Jehovah's Witness comes to your door on a Saturday, and it's always on the best weather Saturday of the year. Every time it's like they plan it. Yeah. Always.
It may just be that they only go out when it's nice out.
That could be it too. And see, now I'm the guy that pushes back because I'm just that kind of douche, and so I will ask them questions like, "So let me get this straight." Only 144,000 are going to be saved. Oh, yeah. Well, I Googled it, and there's 4 million of you. So maybe y'all need to settle this argument amongst yourselves before you bug the hell out of us on a Saturday.
Witness tell me once, well, only that many will be saved, and they've already been selected. And I was like, so what are we doing?
Then leave me the hell alone. Leave me the hell alone. But it's that level. It's Lyndon LaRouchian. I'm in an airport hangar holding up signs about Margaret Thatcher 20 years after she's dead. Level of zealotry. That the spirit of the age, that these sorts of statists, and who am I talking about? These are the people that put their pronouns in their bio, and before they had that, they had the Ukraine flag in their bio, and before they had that, they had their Vax pass or their Vax card in their bio, and before they had that, they had their mask in their bio. Let me show how virtuous of a lemming I am to the spirit of the age, to the state. That level of zealotry isn't going to let you walk away. They're here to fix you. They're here to fix you. And if you don't think you need to be fixed, you will be made to care. And the only reason the tanks aren't rolling yet is because you all own about 400 million guns. If you didn't, the tanks would be rolling already.
Well, they're working on that part.
Yeah. And so they're not going to let you. She's right when she says that. But any society that really needs that would not be able to accomplish it either, because the divisions that exist, both sides are not going to agree to peaceably walk away. When you come to the brink, when you're about to ruin as much freedom, liberty, and prosperity as this country is about to flush down the toilet, that only happens because the forces that have pushed us to this brink are on some, you use the word cult, I use that in my show a lot, the level of cultic zeal that says, to hell with all those things. I have to win this argument no matter what. You cannot reason with that. That level of zeal will not let you walk away.
Let me ask you, how many countries have the freedoms guaranteed that we have? Like the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech. How many other countries?
As enumerated and itemized as us, I would argue none.
Probably. I think it's probably close to none. I think maybe Liberia has something similar because it was created by Americans or something like that. Not that it's really working out for them, to be completely honest. But I have to wonder then if it is a good thing for these bad people to see the U.S. break apart, because it would remove one of the only true free or close to free as we can get societies. And look, the U.S. has its problems. It's not completely free. There's still tribalism. There's all these issues. But man, I've been to some of these countries. Been to countries where the cops will just kill you and that's it. The world is not. Look, I'll say, watch Yellowstone. Have you seen that show? Mm-hmm. I've been watching it recently, so I'm gonna use it as analogies nonstop. But in this show, they just kill people. You're in Montana, you're in the United States, but you're still in the Wild West, and they just kill people, right? You go to other countries, the whole country is the Wild West. You're in a city, watch the videos out of Brazil. You ever see these Brazilian videos? Mm-hmm. Dudes chilling in like a grocery store and someone walks in with a gun and they start shooting at them, and then it's motorcycles pull up and jump out and rob you, and then people start shooting at each other. I know we have those things happen here too, but it's not that bad. We often think things are way worse than they are. And some things are worse than other countries. Don't get me wrong. Some countries are nicer. But I'm not going to sit here and act like Sweden, because of its lower crime rate, is better than the U.S. when the people in Sweden live under a boot and are scared to speak up and losing their jobs because their whole country is woke. The United States has a lot of really awesome things going for it, but we're losing it. And if people don't speak up, it's going to become bad. Now, as it pertains to national divorce, I think that the challenge is, someone super chatted that too much blood and treasure was sacrificed for this union. And that's an interesting point. I know Michael Malice, I know Luke Rudkowski, they talk about national divorce. And the issue I have with it is, in the end, it benefits those who seek to subjugate the world, because at the very least, it would split the territory of freedom in half. If the country breaks apart, then we know the blue states go full Canada, and then there's even less freedom in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the greatest breeding ground for limited war the world had ever seen if the U.S. were to split in half. It'd be one side would be communist, Chinese funded, and then the other side would be the remnants of the United States or something.
How's that
like
any different than what we have right now?
Well, bomber planes would be dropping bombs on Tulsa, Oklahoma, annihilating cities.
That's why I don't think it can be. But this is what you explained there a second ago, Ian, is why people want it, and then why I think we can't achieve it. We're talking. We got people want to rattle sabers with China. What would a war between the U.S. and China ultimately decide? The language, the social credit system will all eventually go to is in. That's really what we're fighting for. That's what it is. There would be no higher principle other than, do you prefer Mandarin? Do you like Chinese hieroglyphics on your social credit score, or do you want it accessible in English? Because every major cultural institution in this country either is already owned by the Chinese or aspires to be like them. And so we're already in the dynamic that you described. That dynamic exists now. But the end result of seeing it play itself out would also result in what you are concerned about. We are headed there. That's unavoidable. Unless you start seeing great awakenings. Where do we have liberty in America to begin with? It's not a coincidence you had great awakenings, spiritual revivals that then led to liberty in the country. All right? And that's why John Adams said Constitution's only for a moral and religious people. You can't have limited government with people that think their character has no limits upon it. They'll then eventually think I can do whatever the hell I want and then make you pay the bill and the freight for it when it blows up in my face. That's what we have now, called a welfare state. So eventually we're going to either see revival like we saw at the dawn of the country, or you're going to see the end of the country. And that's the path that we're on right now. This is a point of no return.
What does revival look like in a modern sense? Like, is it a return to patriotism? Like, how would you see symptoms of revival? Yeah, I love patriarchy.
Well, it has to begin with an acknowledgement of the God that our rights come from. Do we believe in God? That to me, when Chesterton said America is the only country ever founded on a creed, that's really what he meant. That our rights come, and he was observing this as an English theologian, a British theologian, observing, basically their offspring and how it had taken off after the Revolutionary War period. And that was his observation, is that America took the notion that rights come from God, the laws of nature and nature's God, and therefore they're not bestowed by governments, and therefore governments don't have the ability to take them away. And governments are just as accountable to that same God as the people that rights come from. Now we have civil rights. We don't have individual rights. We have group rights now. We don't have a justice system based on restitution anymore. That's what stuff like eye for an eye in the Bible means. Doesn't literally mean eye for an eye. It means what you have taken from someone else must be taken from you, or you must restore it. There must be restitution. We don't have that now. Now you've committed a crime against society. Everything is centralized. Everything's collectivist. We see this in healthcare. That's why we had COVID fascism, because Obamacare ended the last vestige of the patient provider relationship left in America. Men will pay for pap smears now. You're all on a community rating now. Everybody's a unit now. Everybody's a file. I mean, dude, go back and listen to Bob Seger's I Feel Like a Number from like 40 years ago. That's freaking prophecy on where we are right now.
Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers is really about wokeism. That's what Californication is wokeism. He was singing about that in 2003 or something. What
was it you just referenced 40 years ago?
Bob Seger's Feel Like a Number. Go Google the lyrics for that. It'll read like a prophecy of 21st century America.
One of the problems of us all having rights given from God that we founded the country on is, except for those people, those savages, they're not even human. They weren't even human to those people. They killed the Native Americans and slaughtered them, and the black people were 3/5 of a human in the eyes of God, according to the founders. So, we say it's God giving us rights, but obviously the history shows otherwise. We slaughtered 90% of the native population. That we didn't consider him human. I mean, the people didn't even consider him human at the time, which is the most abhorrent thing in the eyes of God I can imagine, is that humans would consider another human a dirty animal, non-human, and then kill it and say it has no rights. So how do we justify now?
Here's the challenge, I think, Ian, is that everybody projects. And one of the big mistakes people make when it comes to any kind of historical conquest is the projection of your cultural values onto cultures that no longer exist or have deeply different values. So I find this interesting in history. The idea that all humans are sound morally and that we should agree with all of their ways of life. The Aztec notoriously would sacrifice people, rip their hearts out or whatever. What would they do? They put them on an altar and then
cut them open with obsidian.
Yeah, and then and while they're alive and things like that. So you got to understand
Tripping
that
on mushrooms.
Even deeply religious. I mean, the colonial Europeans were deeply religious and probably very zealous in terms of their beliefs. But imagine how you would feel as this somewhat liberal, libertarian type modern man watching a bunch of people drag a screaming woman upstairs and then jam her in the chest with obsidian and cut her open in front of you. You wouldn't be thinking these are good people. You'd be thinking these people are animals. Oh my God. I mean, not literal animals. You're saying that in a derogatory sense, what is wrong with these people? I'm not saying every Native American population was that way. I'm just saying what happens is young people today look around at this society that we've built through blood and sacrifice, blood and treasure for, all of the death fought along the way, the Civil War itself, how many dead Union soldiers to preserve this Union, ultimately leading to the end of the Civil War. Not that it was the exact intention of the Civil War, but that was a big component of it. And then they look at this and say, all societies must have been this way, and the conquest of such must have been wrong. And it's dude, that group of people was going around murdering kids and raping women nonstop. Yeah, we all agree that was a bad thing, and they got conquered. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.